All right, so next up is to get the aileron servos set up. This is probably the last thing you can do. It's either the first thing or the last thing you can do, just I find, because it's kind of independent, like the stabs. You can kind of do wings, stabs, and then fuse. Just break it down. I'm doing them last. At this point, I've pretty much done all the fuse work. So on the ailerons, there's a hard point in the wing. I did mark it. You can use a flashlight underneath and see it. It goes from about there all the way over there, so it's quite a wide hard point. You can put the horn anywhere you want. So there's 4 horns included. These guys, they're in a little package all together. There's one there. I've kind of already started building up a linkage. So one for each aileron. There's 4 packs of the bearing links, because you got 4 ailerons, and there's a 4-pack of these little guys here. The slots do fit a 173 just fine, facing that direction, so the linkage is short. You can go ahead and pop in a hole in the center of the wing to get your leads out. I just literally lined it up basically from the top of this, like the servo cutout, all the way to the top of that servo cutout, and then in the middle, that's where I cut it. So there's no former in here, like in the middle. There is like a rib about here, but it's open, quite open. There's maybe a little ridge. You can just barely see it if you look in there. So that's about the only thing you'll run into. Otherwise, it's a straight shot. I'm running S-bus, so I did put a little Y lead, make one up here. You could use an S-bus hub too if you wanted to. And then these will plug in obviously to the S-bus. And because I did a Y there, I did put the ID of the servo, so I can just connect the radio to the single lead, and I can talk to each servo separately. So setting this up, I've already kind of started here. The servo is not perpendicular to the hinge line, so it's more probably, I would imagine, parallel to the center or the flight line basically, or the flight path. So you have to, you'll have to angle the arm. The arm won't be square to the servo; it'll be parallel to the hinge line. And lots of times in ailerons, I'm try to set this down so I can sort of show you. If you set this up like this, these rod bearings they've got a bit of movement, but they're really meant to just rotate. Once they get tight, they have a little bit of play, but not tons. They're not like a ball link that can swivel. And so, as the servo rotates, obviously, it moves from out here to in here. So it translates, not only does it go linearly that direction, but it also translates in a bit. So that does 2 things. One is you get near the end of the throw, it actually starts to significantly reduce the amount that the aileron will move, or any surface will move, because it's going more this direction than that direction. And 2, it's, if you do it like this, by the time you get way over here, you got quite a bit of strain on that bearing link, right? So, I'll probably end up with the linkage all the way out. So I've sort of going to set this up so that basically my linkage is more like at hole number 3, or even a little bit 2. And then as it rotates, I'm very straight here and I'm lined up. And when I'm at neutral, right, I'm a little bit angled in. So basically as it rotates out, this is going to straighten up. And what that does is, when everything's under load, you've got nice straight linkages, and also it kind of retains that amount, the movement, I guess, of the aileron is more linear than translating still at that point. So you still have decent throw at the end, right? Like it's kind of like mechanically adding expo almost when you do it the other way. as it gets here, like you can imagine if it's here, like the servo can move this much, it does nothing, right? So you really have no output. Whereas if you're in this range, it's still, you know, and you're nice and straight, it's still getting you the kind of the amount of throw you might be expecting, I suppose, is one way to say it. So yeah, so what I really did there to do that is you need a square, kind of line that up on the, I've already done this on this one, but line that up on the hinge line, and I just dropped a little drill bit through here, kind of line that up there, and then that's how I got that mark. So I've basically drawn this mark down hole number 3 on a 4-point arm. And then I'm going to slot the control horn basically right dead smack centered on that. And then that way it's sort of at the limit of what this bearing link can take for deflection to get up to number 4. That way if I do move it in, I can move it in probably 2 before I, you know, kind of am straight, right? So I got a bit of adjustment between hole number 3 and hole number 4. So once I get that, slot that in. If you want to figure out, you know, how far to, like, obviously this is not going to be on the very edge, so you can take a square and basically line the flat up, because that's how it's going to sit, and center it on the holes, and it's about 6 millimeters, measure that up. It's about 6 millimeters back, right? So this edge is about 6 millimeters back from the hinge line. So I kind of drew those 2 marks there. So basically I'm going to slot this with a little Dremel right from there to there. That's my slot mark right there. And then that's perpendicular to the hinge line. And then when I completely zero this out, I got this pretty close with the square. I just kind of eyeballed it. You know, when I did this, I kind of put these on the center and eyeballed it pretty close. And then, yeah, once you get this squared up, and it's really then just glue these in. So I'm going to go ahead and slot that up. Yeah, finish putting the other end of this link on, kind of test fit everything, and we'll show you then. Just so you know, these little centering things, that's what comes with the kit, I think, probably to hold these ailerons from flopping around during transport. So they're pretty good to keep the ailerons centered while you're doing this. So just leave those on there. Maybe even keep them in the future for helping to recenter things if you're ever going back and changing servos or doing any kind of reset up on the wing. All right, got that set up. So yeah, just for reference, this is about 40 millimeters or 39.75. So you could actually use that to build out all the other ones, just make them 40 millimeters apart. That'll probably get you super close. I'm assuming most of these dimensions on the wings are pretty close. I'd probably double check everything when you do the next ones. Like, you could try to measure from here to here and duplicate that, but it's probably worth just kind of repeating the process every time. You can see kind of the angle of the push rod to my, you know, perpendicular line, and then I took the supports off here. But you know, as you get further out, right, see how it straightens up nice. So that's really what you're going for, is that as you go out there, it's straightens up nice, and you get a nice straight shot right onto your servo. So kind of at your high load, and at your lower load, it's a bit angled, but no big deal. So yeah, once you get that done, really, that's all you need to do. Go ahead and, you know, pull off your tape, or I guess you could leave it on, just to protect your finish. And then, yeah, just use some epoxy, glue in your horns there, and really let that cure up overnight. No matter what you use, probably, I mean, honestly, the fit in there is so tight because it's not really a slot. It's a slot, but it's not. It's just straight into balsa, so there's no gap. There's nothing to fill. It's a very, very small little, you know, space there. So probably, you know, any kind of like 5-minute or pretty simple epoxy, I wouldn't worry about mixing up something, you know, too fancy. Will work. You know, for the stab and the rudder especially, it was a bigger gap, so I really wanted to fill that in. and the stab a little bit as well. But this is a pretty tight little slot. So yeah, I'm gonna finish up this one. I'm just gonna carry on. I'm not gonna take a video of any of the rest because it's literally repeat this 4 more times. And then I'll probably, dial in these servos and whatnot once I get everything glued up. Yeah, and then that's really gonna be it for the ailerons. I'll kind of show you when it's all said and done. All right, the horns are glued in. Everything's in. I already did the top wing actually, so I'm doing the bottom. I made up linkages. I set them at 40 millimeters. So it's a good place to start. It got pretty close. The top one didn't take too long. So I'm just going to go through the bottom one here. And I guess the first point is to kind of set up your servos. So I did the top wing. The way my program set up its channels 1, 6, 7, and 8. So I did the top wing as 1 and 6, left and right. And the bottom one 7 and 8. Left and right. So I just have the one cable plugged into both servos. So I'm just going to show you how to pick that up on the S bus so that you can program them. Because otherwise, otherwise you can't do that. So go to system, go to S bus. So you don't have just one servo hooked up, right? You have both hooked up. So you can't just hit like recall. You're gonna pick up, I don't even know what will happen. Like you'll pick up nothing, right? Because you don't have a servo selected. So you have to hit this inhibit on, and then you can enter in the ID. So I'm going to put in this one. I don't know if you can see it in here. Maybe not. But that's the ID I'm going to enter. And that's also the matching one that's on that servo. So that's why I taped that to the wing, just so I can always come back to it later. So it's you just go up the big button, 011, and then you can type in 27301. When you do that and you hit recall, it's going to bring up this servo now. They're both energized. Like if I move the ailerons, they're both powered up here. But only one of them, only this servo will take when you write it. So when you write to that servo, they both won't get it. You'll just get the 27301 servo is the one that you'll write to. So if I want to, for instance, change this to, this is going to be channel 7, and I want to make this 0.11, and I write it, now that servo is channel 7, right? And so that's basically how you just set up one at a time with a single cable to the servos. So as you see here, I've got just one cable wide into both servos. So that's how you kind of pick that servo up on the, I guess, on the network, on the bus, the serial bus, and program it. So I'll just show you real quick, sort of this few steps, how to do the servo. Just gonna move this camera around here, see if that works. Doesn't matter, I'm going to pick a linkage, and then I'm going to pick up the bolts. And I'm going to bolt this through here. Oops, did that wrong. Don't forget your spacer. That's not going to work very well. I went in the top holes. I mean, you could go in the bottom, but it'll give you more throw, and it's just mechanically not as nice of a setup. But if you wanted to quickly grab more throw and you were out of room on your servo end, it's not the worst thing in the world to do. So I'm just going to bolt this up here permanently. So throw a little Loctite on there. this up. So that's that. Now, I did take these guys off. You could certainly leave it on here if you wanted to kind of hold it in place. But whatever you do, be very careful, because you could easily, you know, damage the surface, right? These servos are strong, so you definitely don't want to do that. Yeah, so I just kind of set this on here and sort of approximately figure out maybe where my 90 is, and actually I think this arm is pretty close. It's a forearm, so you probably won't get exactly right, but it's not too bad. But this is gonna be a little long, so I'm gonna thread this in a bit. There's a lot of thread in gauge on these, so I mean, don't really worry about trying to get one side or the other. Once you get it this far in, I don't think it matters that much. One more probably how to do it. So I'm just eyeballing basically where it kind of sits. And I'm gonna put this through and thread my spacer on here. And I'm going in the fourth hole out, so all the way. Usually when they're doing these servos will whine a bit, it's fine. So that's not bad, so I'm just gonna check that this is, I'm just eyeballing this, but it's as close to kind of 90. Not exactly, but it's, so then I'm gonna use the, if it's not quite at 90, I'm going to use the servo offset here. Let's see. I'm going to take that off because I want that. I was about 1.5 degrees on the other servos, and that's seems to be about where I'm at on this one too. Maybe 1.75. So get it kind of as close to 90 as you can. And then, yeah, this is up, so I'm going to thread this back out a little bit. And to do that, I'm just literally going to take this off and just thread it out a couple turns, probably. You're kind of back and forth doing this until you get it right. And that is super close. That's super close, so you can kind of check that it's deflecting right for you. And really with that, you can trim this up. That's kind of it. Trim this up, put your nut on, don't forget your Loctite, and basically repeat that for each side, each aileron. So that's all there is to it. I don't do any more than that. Yeah. Just check that it's as neutral as you can get it. I mean, if you have to use a bit of sub trim afterwards, it's not the end of the world. But if I could thread that in a 1/2 turn maybe. Yeah, you can't really, you can kind of do 1/2 turns, but then you got to take this off and just flip it around. So 1/2 turns are possible, they're just more work. So it's nice if you can get it with a full turn, but if you can't, just flip it off, flip it around, set it up as a 1/2 turn. I don't think these bearing links have the same issue that the old MK style did, where they'll actually come off one direction, so you can only really put them on one way. Looks to me like you can put these on either way. Yeah, that's pretty good there. So yeah, trim that up, and I'll just show what I mean here with the high deflection. So you see how it's kind of maybe a little more this way. So as you go like, all the way out, you see how that arm gets nice and straight. It's almost perpendicular to the hinge line, right? And same coming back, it gets nice and straight. So you get a good strong pull on the surface at the high deflection, which is kind of what you want. Okay, I'm going to trim this up, put this bolt on, do the other side, and then that'll be it. The procedure is the same once you're right. So once you're done doing this, just just hit right once you've got it set up. And then you don't really need to do anything other than basically unplug it, like step back out of this menu and switch to the other servo. I guess step back out of this menu and step back in, and then you can do the same process. I don't know, maybe there's a way to do it direct, but I don't know how. Do not hit this whatever initialize button, it like resets everything. So yeah, just back out, back in, and then re-enter your ID for the other servo and kind of do the same process.